when he's talking to Shooter, he's like, I'm going through a divorce.
Yeah.
He spells it out. It makes me laugh every single time.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's so good.
The podcast you are about to listen to is an account of the movies which befell a group of horror fans. In particular, Tara Garwood and her intrepid friend, Matt Lolich. Had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, although they would have wished, to see as much of the mad and macabre as we are to see in those movies. For them, an idyllic summer movie became a nightmare, and they loved it. The movies that they watched were to lead to the creation of one of the most terrifying podcasts in the annals of American history. The Scary Movie Project.
Hey peeps, this is the Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about scary movies, share our perspectives as filmmakers, and super love Mountain Dew and Doritos with our spoilery spoilers. I'm Tara.
And hello, everyone. I am Matt, and I'm talking really slowly. But I'm going to stop talking slowly. Yep. I'm just being stupid. You know, some windows should never be open. But we are going to open the window for 2004's Secret Window because it's awesome, and I love it, and I want to talk about it. And Tara, should you and I talk about it, or should we talk about it with somebody else tonight also?
I think we should talk about it with somebody else. And how about Cameron Baker, who is the host of the Unwanted Things podcast, where he reads short horror stories and interviews people in the horror world. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you, yeah.
Woo!
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're too kind.
I think that's a great idea. We're happy he's here. This is wonderful. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Yes, thank you for coming.
I'm super excited about it. This is actually, when you emailed, I think there were a couple options, and I forget what it was. And this is actually one of those movies that I really like, but for whatever reason has kind of like a bad reputation, I think.
It's really a good movie.
So yeah, I will say, I love it. I remember watching it when it came out, and I mean, I love Stephen King. Now, I will say, I'm embarrassed to say this, I have not read Secret Window, Secret Garden, which is what this is based on. His short story.
I wanted to talk about that. I was curious
because
I know you guys are obviously.
I haven't read it.
Yeah,
I read almost everything,
either,
but
so
I haven't read it.
You'll be our expert.
Yeah, you guys are horror files. So I was curious if you guys had read it or not.
That's what I said. I feel embarrassed saying it, but I just haven't gotten it. It's a short story. It's not a novel though. It's just, but I haven't gotten a chance to read it.
Yeah, it's one of his short stories. Yeah, I have only read The Shining by Stephen King.
You're off the show.
I know. I need to get.
We're now hiring replacements for Tara, so please send your applications to me.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, but even his books that are kind of the Tommyknockers, that was actually a good book to me. The movie, not so much.
Was that a miniseries? I'd never seen that actually.
No, I can't remember if it was a miniseries or a movie, but I remember I watched it years ago. Stayed up too late, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" Yeah. Stephen King. I watched it, and I watched the whole thing, but wow, this is incredibly bad. And then eventually read the book later, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's weird." The book was much, much better than the whatever the show was or movie. But yeah, check it out just because bad stuff is fun to watch sometimes.
Yes.
You know, I realized I've always watched more horror and read more sci-fi and fantasy, and I really should rectify that and read more horror. I just realized that. I was like,
everyone
I don't read horror usually.
Yeah, reading horror definitely gives you a different feel. It's a different kind of creepy feeling. It kind of sticks with you more, I think. When you read a good horror book, it almost makes me want to check the closet more than
Are you like Joey on Friends when he read The Shining and had to put it in the freezer when it scared him?
Honestly, I am, for somebody who loves horror. My wife laughs at me all the time. I'm actually really scared of stuff. It gets in my head, and I definitely even our son's closet. I make sure it's closed every night. I don't actually think there's anything in there, but it's just like
monsters in there.
It's just OCD. I've done it my whole life.
Yes.
So she'll leave his door open, and I'll walk over and close it. She's like, "You're gonna give him a complex." I'm like, "Well,
opposite.
Stop doing it." Like, and I won't do it.
I did completely the opposite. I decided there were ghosts in my closet, and the best way to deal with them was to open the closet door and make friends with them.
Oh, I like that idea.
So that they would protect me from anybody else.
Yeah.
Not me. I was the like 1 foot on the steps as I go to shut the lights off.
Right.
And then as soon as they're off, I'm bolting up the stairs.
Right.
I was
definitely did not make friends with the skeleton that I thought was under my bed.
There you go. Yeah. No good.
That I was like
Not as bad as
definitely
the
like
clown.
3 feet away from the bed, jumping in.
Not as bad as the clown under the bed in Poltergeist. Holy crap.
No.
Ooh, anyway. But yeah, the thing I love about reading this stuff is, all the all the books is there's that level of disappointment though in a way, because when you read the book, you finish it, you have the characters in your head what they look like to you. And then you see them in the movie, and you're like, "That's not that person."
Yeah, that always stinks. I'm really worried about. It's not horror; it's more fantasy. Because I will say, I'm similar to you, but it wasn't so much sci-fi. I've read way more fantasy than I have.
So, do you like Dark Tower from Stephen King then?
See, that's one I actually never did read, and I don't know why.
I haven't read it because fantasy's not my thing, but
I haven't either.
people love that stuff. There's like 4 or 5 volumes of it, so
yeah, it's what I need to get into. I think part of it was because I found
Gunslinger.
A while. I mean, it's been years now, but it took me forever to read. It's like 15 books. It's the Wheel of Time.
Holy cow.
Series. And it's great, but they're coming out.
I dropped off after a while.
It was a commitment. It took me several years to do it, but eventually I finished them, and now they're doing an Amazon series. And that to tie it in, that's where I'm so worried about this series that I spent years reading, and I have an image in my head of how these characters are.
Right.
And now I'm super excited for it to get its roses and get the Amazon series, but also I'm like, they better not screw this up.
I know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It never works out.
I feel that for sure. I felt that way with Game of Thrones, and then I started watching the TV show and was like, wait, this is better than the books. I'm just going to watch the TV show from now on.
Cool.
Until the end.
Right.
Till the end. Yeah, and then it went... Okay, so we're here to talk about Secret Window, though.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the movie we're here to talk about, because otherwise we're just going to go off and never talk about it. So this was directed and written by David Coop.
Don't know.
That's how you say his name.
It's probably something weird like Cape.
K-O-E-P-P. Maybe.
Cape.
It's probably
Cape.
something weird like that.
Could be Cape or Cope, yeah.
Kerp. Something like that.
Brett Favre.
Anyways, he wrote it based on the novella by Stephen King.
Yes,
He
novella, that's the word.
he also wrote Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible,
Really?
Death Becomes Her, and
Oh my
Indiana
goodness.
Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
So I had no idea about that. Do you remember Death Becomes Her back in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Did you guys?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Love that movie.
I need to
In
pull
fact,
that up again.
I
Oh,
think
man.
we could make a case for doing that on the show.
I absolutely think you guys
Why
should do it
not?
on the
I think
show.
we could
I haven't
absolutely
seen that
do that on
movie
the show.
in decades, but yes.
That's such a great movie.
Oh, wow.
And then the music was done by Philip Glass and Jeff Zanelli.
Okay.
Philip Glass, he writes very avant-garde music. He's one of the
Yeah, I know
great
the name.
modern American composers.
Sure.
He's amazing.
Sure.
And his stuff is just wild. It's really cool. So, to dive in, Johnny Depp, Mort Rainey,
Is this our third Johnny Depp movie now at this point?
at least.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love him. He's great, so that's cool by me. But
Yeah, he plays like the same. And actually, this is one that I think he kind of differs. I was going to make the joke that he kind of plays the same character all the time, because there are similarities between a lot of them. But I do think in this one, Mort Rainey is very different.
yeah, he's
Than I
interesting
think his normal
character. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think he's much more of a normal person. Like I think he has like similar mannerisms in certain movies. But this one, as I was watching it, I was just like, wow, like Mort really differentiates from obviously your other ones that he's had. Like I can't think of any names right now, but there are a couple movies where you're like, that was very similar.
Well,
acting.
we always mention we love the Ninth Gate. Dean Corso is the character he plays in that movie.
Love.
So
Yeah, actually, when I was looking this movie up, because I wanted to watch it a couple of times, because I didn't want to sound like a dope when we talked about it. I went on Amazon and they had Ninth Gate and I think it's From Hell, like also
Okay.
like right there.
So I love me some Jack the Ripper, and
Yeah.
From Hell, the graphic novel is awesome.
Yes, the graphic novel's so good.
And the movie, I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. I like it all right. You know, this is a conversation for another time. But yes, he is Inspector Aberline or whatever, right? From okay. I mean,
We should do From Hell just so that we can talk about the graphic novel.
yes,
Just get the word out. More
And-
about it.
And here's how it's different from the graphic novel and why the graphic novel
I
is
wanted
so much better.
to make a short film about it, and I never did. But I have an awesome trailer that I made that I should give to the world. Yes, I should share it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So good.
continue.
So, Johnny Depp, playing Mort Rainey, sits in a car and he tells himself to turn around and get out of here. And he does, but he stops and he goes back, and he's going back to a motel. Then he sneaks behind the desk and he grabs a room key, and then he goes into the room where his wife is having sex with another man.
Sure is.
And we don't fully know this yet, but I mean,
in a
it's
blizzard,
pretty clear.
right? It's in a blizzard, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, or
Or is it
a storm,
raining?
yeah.
I don't know.
It's some
Yeah.
sort of storm. And so then the credits appear, and they're over a lake and a peaceful cabin sitting by it. And on a balcony in the cabin, there's a desk. And it's like not a balcony, like a loft. Mm-hmm. There's a desk, and the dog is sleeping nearby.
So can we talk
Oh,
about
I know.
the amazing opening shot? By the way, that crane shot that comes in and goes into the
Yes.
window. By the way, that composite
Yeah.
shot. I think. Oh my
There are a
goodness,
couple
that
Yeah,
shots
so it
in this
comes
movie
over the
that I think-
lake.
Like there's another one I wanted to talk about later. It's almost
man.
unnecessary what they did, but it was cool.
oh so
Yeah.
cool.
Like, well, I'll talk about it later when we get
Yeah.
to that part. But
Love
I
that
looked up a couple
shot.
things too about the show too, so I had some input. I found a couple interesting things about that opening scene.
Good.
Oh, cool.
Some IMDb, some other stuff
Of
from around
course.
the internet. But I
Of
saw
course.
so one interesting thing was when he's in the car in the beginning. He looks in the rear view or the driver's side mirror, and it has the sticker on it that says "Objects are closer than they may appear."
Right.
That's only on passenger side mirrors.
That's on the other side.
But for whatever reason,
Oh, I
they-
didn't notice
they
that.
had
I love little things like that.
I do
That's-
too.
that's-
I love like
they're
in the
great.
beginning of movies. That's one of my. I love to get there early and see
Yep.
all the dumb little things that go by.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one that I found, and then also I saw that. Let me get my little paper here. I had some notes. It was. I thought I wrote down the pronunciation, but I didn't. Kep, however you say his name, he really wanted that scene to be authentic, so he had the two in bed for like 15 minutes, not knowing when Johnny Depp was going to bust in or
Okay.
what he was
yeah.
going to do.
That's good.
So when he busted in, some of what you saw was pretty authentic. They had no idea when Johnny Depp
Yeah.
was coming
Sure.
in there or what
Yeah.
he was going to be doing when he did. So I thought that was pretty cool.
As an actor, I'm like, that already gives me like the sweats just
Yeah.
thinking about it, like being there, like waiting.
And after I read that and I watched it back, I think it did kind of help that scene too, because I kind of tried to put myself in that. What Johnny Depp was doing, I thought he did a great job because trying to like you're so mad, but then also like wow, like my life is going away, like everything sucks, the anger, and then you kind of learn what we don't need to talk about. Some stuff that happens later, anyways, I don't need to blabber on
We'll
too much.
spoil
about
it
that
when
one
we
scene.
get there.
We'll get there. Yeah.
No, it's a good scene. And then they go into the credits and the lake and that great shot into the window. And there's the balcony in the cabin, and there's a desk with the dog. I think the dog's name is Chico.
See, I thought
Yeah,
it was
sounds
Milo.
right.
Maybe it was Chico.
Nah, Chico. That is right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Chico. And so
You're right.
he's laying nearby, and the desk has a computer on it with writing open. But Mort is sleeping on a couch downstairs in a tatty bathrobe, not writing at his desk.
Pretty much all he does.
So someone knocks on the door, and Mort goes to answer it, and it is John Turturro as John Shooter. And John Turturro's son apparently convinced him to do the movie
Yeah.
because he's like a huge Stephen King fan.
Oh, cool.
So
And he's
that's
just
how
an
we got
awesome
him.
Actor, like I loved him. I think the first movie I really
he's
remember him
fantastic.
from was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and I don't know why. I just loved him in that movie.
It's such a
but
good
he's
movie.
one of those actors that every time he shows up, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm so glad he's in this movie.
Yes,
Guys in it.
yes, love him.
Right.
But yeah, I saw something interesting about that scene too. When when they open the door and Shooter is standing there, something I didn't notice the first time, but I watched it the second time, and the dog just goes right by Shooter and does not pay him any mind.
Huh.
So,
yeah.
Again, don't have to talk about it or what it means, but the dog just does not pay any attention to this person that is at the door.
Okay. Yeah, so listeners, remember that when we get a little further in here, and you'll know why if you didn't already watch the movie and don't already know why.
Yeah.
You will find out soon, or not too soon.
Yeah, I thought that was... I didn't catch it the first time, but the second time I noticed that, just...
Yeah, I've watched this movie a few times, and I never noticed that.
I never...
That's a good one.
I never paid attention.
So John Shooter says, "You stole my story."
Yeah, you stole
except
my...
he says it. Yeah, except he says it in a really bad accent.
I haven't done it in a long time. I got you. He's always like, "Yeah, Mr. Rainey, whatever. You stole my story."
You stole my story.
And I'm gonna get it
back. I can't do it. You're so much better at that than I am.
He's not quite to the mashed taters. He's not quite that.
He's got
southern.
that drawl. You stole my story. Yeah.
So Mort tells him to leave. And John leaves in his car with Mississippi plates. And then Mort opens the door and sees that John has left his manuscript that he was trying to give to him. And it's for a book called Sowing Season. S-O-W.
Yeah.
Sowing Season. And Mort throws the manuscript in the trash and he goes back to sleep on the couch. And then later on, Mort sits at his computer. Still not really writing, though. He's just sitting at his computer. And the, I guess it's the housekeeper or the landlady is downstairs cleaning. And he decides that what he's writing is bad and he deletes it.
Yeah, I like that part. He's like,
he's like, just
no bad
just
writing.
Just bad writing.
That takes care of that. Bad writing. I thought it was pretty funny. It just seemed very, very... very normal. Like, it didn't seem like acting. It just seemed like somebody who's tried to write. Like, I feel like I've done that before.
Right. It felt very much like a writer. Because I've written some stuff too, and I know Matt has, and you're like, that's just bad. That's just, what am I doing? That's horrible.
That's what everyone thinks about everything they've ever written. I mean, Stephen King, we're not talking about him. He threw, Carrie or something in a drawer in a garbage can, and his wife was like,
that's
no,
crazy.
This is good. So... people think that way about everything they do. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes you just stare at that paragraph for 15 minutes and then you just delete it. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna just start it differently.
It's gone. It's gone. That's why they say I hear it's good to write it out and
just write it
in pen because then you can't completely lose it as much. Like you can't just erase it and get rid of it. You can't delete it from the computer and never have it again. Right. You just it's there.
Yep.
I do not because my handwriting is god awful. So
I was just about to say the same exact thing. I do not do that because of the same reason.
Especially if it's like
bad.
Thoughts are coming quickly and I'm really trying to get this idea down.
Right.
The next day I'm like, I got about 6 words out of this and I wrote it. I don't know what I was talking about.
Yeah. I'm absolutely the same. So he gets downstairs and he notices that the manuscript isn't in the trash anymore, and the housekeeper rescued it from the trash. I think it's Mrs. Garvey. Yeah, Mrs. Garvey has rescued it from the trash. And so Mort starts reading the manuscript, Sowing Season, and he spills his drink. His I think it's Mountain Dew because he's like the whole time he's drinking Mountain Dew and eating Doritos. It's like kind of the most awkward product placement ever.
I'll take the Doritos, but Mountain Dew, Mountain Spew, no way.
Yeah,
no Mountain Dew for me.
Not for me.
No. And I prefer Fritos to Doritos personally. But
nacho
that's
cheese
just
Doritos,
me.
Man. That's the way to go.
I like to hurt myself, so I am all about like the what's the flaming hot Doritos.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah.
See, if I'm gonna eat Doritos, gotta be Cool Ranch.
All right, so here's what you got to do. You got to do taco's the best actually. But what you got to do is you got to do the roulette, where you get the bag where it has the super hot and the regular nacho cheese inside.
Yeah.
But you don't know which one you're getting.
They have that for real?
Yeah. I've seen it.
You think I mess around with Doritos? You think I joke about Doritos? Really? Come on.
Pardon me. I apologize. You take your Doritos very seriously.
They are delicious.
Yeah, as does Mort Rainey.
Yes, as does Mort Rainey.
And speaking of him, we've gone in that scene, off the rails
he's
here.
Like, good.
No, I'm just saying.
But yeah, as he's fumbling through the drawer to find his cigarettes, he's just like emptying a bag of Doritos into the drawer. Like, why would the cigarettes have been in the bag?
He's so disheveled. Like, he just... Yeah, he's such a mess. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that gave my OCD brain just like, oh, he's got to clean that drawer out. It's all, you just got to clean everything out
so
now,
messy.
man.
He really is.
So messy. So Mrs. Garvey comes to clean up the Mountain Dew that he spilled, and he tells her that, she says like, oh, I rescued it's your manuscript. I rescued it, whatever. It shouldn't be in the trash. And he was like, no, this isn't my story.
Yeah.
And then he goes to find his book of short stories, and he has written the exact same words.
Yeah. I like that part too when he's talking to her and she's like, oh, I get it. You writers, you and your pseudonyms. Right. He's like, no, this is not my story.
I did not write this. Yeah, he's like, no, I did not write this. And then we cut to, he sees Amy at the window, his wife Amy at the window in the cabin. And it's like the window up on the balcony, the little window, and she says it's a secret window and it'll look down on a secret garden. And so it's like back when they were doing well, and I guess they've just started getting the cabin. And like everything is the same. And so then he rummages through the desk drawers, drops Doritos everywhere while he gets a cigarette. And I can't remember what brand he smokes, but I
don't remember either. Yeah.
Yeah.
L&M's or something.
Oh, was it L&M's?
I think that's what it was actually.
Was that it? Okay, so he gets his cigarettes, and we're dropping brand names all over the podcast too. So I guess I can hardly make fun of them for doing the movie.
Cigarettes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Totally. So Miss Garvey comes upstairs, and he like hides the cigarette, and he's like trying to get her to leave so he can smoke his damn cigarette.
Right.
And she basically tells him like, well, that his wife is missing out. Like she gives him like a little speech, a little like pep talk.
Some
about,
women don't know what they're missing, or don't know a good man when they have it.
Know. Yeah, some women just don't know what they have, and then she leaves, and he smokes his cigarette. And then he lays back down on the couch, and he dreams of John Shooter, like, rattling the door.
Yeah. And there was something, I'm pretty sure it was this scene. Was this the scene, too, where there was the ocean, right? Or is
That's later.
That's later. Okay.
That's a little later is the ocean, yeah. I know, because you have trivia there, too, don't you? Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I saw the same trivia.
So much trivia.
We're here. So Mort's wife calls to check on him. And he asks her if she remembers Secret Window and if he was, like, into anything weird then. And she's like, besides Jack Daniels? And he says, yeah. And he's very passive-aggressive, and she just hangs up on him. And then he goes outside, and John is there, and he asks if he read it. And
we read my story.
There you go. And John says, well, I wrote the story 7 years ago. Or John Shooter says, I wrote the story 7 years ago he wrote the story 7 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
In 1997.
You stole my story.
And Mort tells him, I beat you by 2 years, because his was published in a magazine in 1995.
Yeah, he just tells him, drop it. And he goes to walk. What do you mean, drop it?
And this is mirroring Stephen King, because he had these stories. He's had stories written and published in magazines. Like, it's totally a page out of his life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so John threatens to go to his house and ask his wife for the magazine, and he tells Mort he'll give him 3 days to get the magazine and show him. 3 days. And the magazine, by the way, is called the Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. And Timothy Hutton, who is in this, who plays the new boyfriend, Amy's new boyfriend. His father, Jim Hutton, starred as Ellery Queen in the 1975 television series Ellery Queen.
So we'll also mention that Timothy Hutton, remember, is stars in The Dark Half, the movie The Dark Half, which is a Stephen King book. Really good book. Love the book. And the movie, not so terrible. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to have him come back into another Stephen King universe.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah.
So Mort sits at the kitchen table as the faucet drips, and then he lays on the floor with Chico the dog and gives him a bite of his sandwich, which I thought was really cute and very kind of sweet and human.
Right.
And then he goes back to the couch and he falls asleep. And this is when he dreams that he's on a ledge over the ocean, and he wakes up abruptly and it's night.
Yeah.
So here you go, Cameron. I'm pitching it to you.
Can I say one thing? Sorry, I'm like totally ruining your. I'm just gonna say, like, nothing horrible has happened yet, and at this point, can I have his life? Can I just like hang out at my cabin by the lake and just sleep all day, please? Thank you. Sign me up for that.
Sign me up. Wouldn't be too bad.
And quote unquote right
work. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Air quotes working.
Yes.
But yeah, in his nap between his work, they're in this dream he's having. It shows the ocean, and that footage was actually supposed to be used for the Jurassic Park film.
No kidding.
That Cape Kep had worked on years ago. It was just some B-roll that they used,
and it's been beautifully repurposed. How about that?
yeah. They had that stuff sitting on a shelf somewhere and decided to use
B-roll. I mean, it gets used over and over again. Why the heck not?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a shot we did with that in The Shining? It was from something else where they're in the VW Bug going up the hill.
Really?
Yeah, that was from something else too, and that they just used it. I can't remember what.
Because that was the one. I will say,
my God, you just gave me like a thrill saying I remember you guys talking about it.
Yeah, because I really do listen to the show. I will say I do not listen to movies that I have not seen. So
that's
because I think
a lot of people do that.
So, but I've seen most of them, and the ones that I've seen, I like to go through because you guys say things that I don't know. Plus it's just one thing I guess we probably should have talked about this at the beginning of the show. I love like these kind of conversations, and you guys do that thing that you kind of want from a podcast where it feels like I'm part of the conversation even when I'm not, and even though right now I actually am.
I think we have a new tagline. We say things you don't know.
The Scary Movie Project, saying things you don't know since 2020.
Very good.
I like it. But yeah, there was one thing I wanted to talk about from the scene before too. I forgot I wrote it down. I loved when he talked to when he's talking to Shooter, he's like, I'm going through a divorce.
D-I-V.
He spells it out. It makes me laugh every single time.
Oh, that was funny.
I forgot about that. That's so good.
Oh,
D-I-V-orse. I wrote it down. I didn't want to forget it, but
that's a
I
great
let it go
one.
by, but
Good.
I wanted to bring it back up because that part is awesome.
That's great.
That is a good part. Okay, so he wakes up abruptly and it's nighttime. And the window is open, and there's a note taped to it. So he goes outside, and the front door light is broken. And the sign says, "You have 3 days. I am not joking.
Yeah.
No police." And then he finds that Chico has been stabbed dead.
So
which I can't with that. But especially after he just fed him part of his sandwich, no.
You can do anything you want to people. I don't care what you do to them. But you go and kill the dog, I'm sorry. That's
animals, and since I've had kids, I really can't.
Oh, children, yes, of course.
I can't do movies. Like I used to be able to watch them, and of course, like it was cringy and you didn't like it, but like it really messes with me now. Like, especially like if my son's upstairs sleeping, because that's usually when I get to watch movies. Like I just want to go look at the monitor and just make sure he's cool.
Right.
So many of my friends who have kids say that they're like, I can't do stuff with kids anymore. I just can't.
Yeah.
I get it. So
I definitely can still do it, but it messes with me a little more than it used to, I'll say.
In the Conjuring at the very beginning, when they're just getting in the house and the dog ends up being killed in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, which is bad enough. The dog's name is Sadie, and that's my dog's name. I remember watching it for the first time, like, this movie is not getting off to a good start.
No, I'm not okay with this.
And let me tell you something.
That's so bad.
If I knew some dude was after me, like messing with me like that, and I found my dog dead and I thought it was him, I'm sorry. I'm going after that dude, and I'm going to kill you. I'm going to end your life if you killed my dog.
Yeah, my family. Like, I'm gonna
kill you.
I'm not sure if the audio gets left in from when I interrupted the show because I thought my dog was barking, but even the loud one, that's my baby. She's a big 90-pound baby, and she knows it.
You're gonna pay if you did that to my you're gonna pay.
And that's what Mort says. He says, "I'll get you for this." Like he's already he's going.
Yeah. And I will say too, throughout this movie, Mort doesn't really have like what I normally associate like what a movie's like writer type is. Like he's a little more tough than like going into certain situations. Yeah. He's a little more crass than I would expect. Like we'll talk about a scene later with Teddy. He's a little more ready to fight than I would expect.
He's not refined.
Right,
no,
yeah. From your junk writer type. Yeah. But he surprised me a little bit with how ready he was to kind of go to war in certain situations.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
So the next day, Mort goes to see the sheriff, and the sheriff is doing needlepoint because it's good for his arthritis.
Sewing season.
Which is another like little sewing. Yes, sewing SEW season.
Very good.
Very nice. So I love that too because it's another moment where it's like he's not a very big character, but he gets this little like quirk that makes him very human.
Yeah, just kind of showing you this is just a small town sheriff. Like bad things don't happen here.
Aw, shucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Sheriff Newsom isn't really sure that killing an animal is a crime, but he says he'll look into it. Sheriff Newsom, I say you are wrong.
Yeah. I'm not going to agree with that one. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
not a
when
crime.
he's like, is that a crime?
Me?
And he's like, of course it is. Like, it's got to be
he's
something.
Like, it's at least animal cruelty. Like, come on.
He's like, oh, yeah,
Pretty
you're
sure.
probably right. Like,
Look into it.
Yeah, awful sheriff. He needs to step his game.
Yeah, he's maybe a little past his prime. So Mort goes to see a PI, Ken Karsh,
Rock.
for help. Rock, right?
You guys remember Rock, the TV show Rock, I hope? And he's an alien.
Yes.
He's an Alien 3 also.
Yes,
so.
Charles Dutton.
Love him. I think
Charles S. Dutton.
Yeah, Charles S. Dutton, I believe. I loved Rock. That was a great show.
Pardon me.
And then he was
Don't
an
want to
alien.
forget the S.
He was an Alien 3. I like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good too.
And,
they got a
the
lot of
notes,
great actors in this.
I wonder if you had the same trivia too, because this is all. Most of mine is from IMDb. I will say to give whoever it was that had the credits.
Mine
for
all
it.
comes from Wikipedia.
There you go. Ving Rhames was supposed to be, or he was offered a role in this.
I can
movie.
see that. Okay.
So, and he couldn't because of schedule conflict. So, what I say, based off certain characteristics of the character, I think this was probably the character for Ving Rhames. You know, the gun for hire type.
Yeah, the tough sort of PI.
Did they want him to play Did they want him to play Marcellus Wallace again from Pulp Fiction, basically? Right? I mean, is that what they're trying to do? Right. Okay.
Right. I feel like
typecast.
I feel like he wouldn't have been gonna play like the Timothy Hutton role.
No, no, probably not. Although I would have maybe liked.
He's
if
awesome.
He was
I love
Shooter.
Ving Rhames.
I could totally, like, not that wouldn't be interesting. Just I can't see Johnny Depp threatening him.
Right, yeah,
Right.
it changes the movie. Guy shows up, you stole my story.
The whole movie.
Ving Rhames shows up, you stole my story. Yes, sir, you're right, I did.
Sorry, sir.
Right, I absolutely did. How
Sorry,
much
sir.
money do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like, who knows what the character was, but just based off of his career, work, and what kind of character he plays, I think he would have been perfect for that character. So
Yeah,
no offense to
definitely, I can see
Mr.
that.
Charles S. Dutton, but I think he was second, maybe.
All right, he works.
You know
though. He's
what?
good.
He
Sometimes
worked out.
second choice actually works out beautifully. So
Yeah.
He's good. I like him.
yeah, I thought he was great. And so Ken Karsh, Charles S. Dutton, tells Ken that he's going to go get the magazine. Mort tells Ken he's going to go get the magazine, but he wants Ken to be with him when he shows it to John Shooter.
Just in case
he
he
wants that.
kind of goes crazy.
He wants the tough guy.
Yeah, because they kind of allude to a situation that happened before. They're like
yeah.
He says, remember
And
the
it
last
sounds
time?
like he may have
Right.
stolen somebody's story before.
Right. So this is maybe not a
Sure.
first time thing.
That's right.
And
Forgot
the
about
last
that.
time the guy
And they
kinda went
allude to
crazy.
that later where he talks to Amy about it and he's like, you didn't tell anybody, like nobody,
Right.
Yeah, nobody knows about that, right?
Nobody knows about that, yeah.
This is kind of the first mention of that. Like, I want you there just in case anything like last time happens.
Yeah. Good catch. So Mort drives to Amy's house and she's just leaving with her new boyfriend, Ted, who, as we mentioned, was played by Timothy Hutton. And Mort quotes Talking Heads to himself. He says, "This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife.
This is not my beautiful house. This is not great
Anymore." Anymore. That's one of my favorite songs, but that's neither here nor there.
Wall Street, great movie, great Talking Head soundtrack. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, such a good movie. And such a good, they're just such a good band. They're so good.
I like them. I will say I have my 10 cents. I like them, but I'm more of a metalhead. Like I'm more of a like deathcore kind of guy. If there aren't 7 strings and breakdowns, like I don't know, it doesn't really do a lot for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely more into the a little bit dreamy, a little bit odd, but like still very melodic kind of music.
Yeah, I will say, this is not a music podcast, but the closest I probably get to that is like Deftones, who I have recently rediscovered, and forgot how much I love that band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways.
So we have the talking heads moment. Then he gets back to the cabin, and Ken is asleep in his car. And at first, Mort thinks he's dead. Like, Mort sees, he's like got his head against the steering wheel, and Mort like gingerly kind of knocks on the window, and he's like, whoa.
Just catching a few winks.
Yes. I was only asleep for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So they go inside, and Ken checks the house for him. And then Ken asks if anyone else saw John Shooter. And Mort tells him that Tom Greenleaf did, because
that's right.
when he was talking to John Shooter outside earlier, Tom Greenleaf is who drove by in a truck.
Yep.
So we didn't know that was Tom Greenleaf.
A nod, kind of give
a little hey. And Ken is staying at the motel where Mort caught his wife cheating. Mm-hmm. Just a side note. That Ken is staying there. Mort hears a noise now. So Ken is gone. Mort's alone. He hears a noise and he grabs a fire poker and goes upstairs. And he starts to check in the wardrobe, and he hears another noise behind him. So he calls out, and then he runs in and he smashes a mirror. And then the shower door. And it's a mouse.
Yeah, I think he says like, I've killed my mirror.
I've killed my mirror. and again, I like this humanity in him, that he wraps the mouse in a towel and he gingerly takes it outside.
Right.
But he like starts to grab a cigarette on his way out, and then he like stops himself, and then he goes back for the cigarette anyways.
Yeah.
And then he lets the mouse go outside.
Which I typically do. I don't have it in me to just kill a mouse. I'll usually take him out and go.
I don't think I could with a mouse. A spider I can get rid of. Them I can end if I'm not screaming in the corner.
Spiders, and I get plenty of them in this basement. I live in a 120-year-old house. And I've done my best to, you guys can't see a lot of it, but when we first moved here, it was what you think an old basement is. I've cleaned so much and done all this, but somewhere there's a little crack somewhere, and spiders get in here, and they love my studio. So usually when I come in, I gotta look around. It's a great atmosphere for a horror podcast, though.
I was gonna say, absolutely.
You wouldn't have heard it yet, but we talked in the last episode about how my first horror movie was arachnophobia, and that is how I found out that I had arachnophobia. So yeah.
For me, I think I actually, because I knew about that movie, but I wouldn't watch it because I knew I didn't like spiders. But I think the first like scary spider movie I watched was 8-Legged Freaks.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Freaks! That movie's so bad.
It's hard to call a movie a scary movie because I think it was made to be,
I knew when I rented it. I'm saying it's so old now. I just, that was like a, go get a 12-pack and just throw that movie in because it's going to be awful, but you're just going to laugh the whole time.
And those are honestly like my... I love horror movies, but those are like my favorite kind of horror movies where it's like they're in on the gag, like they get that this is bad.
Oh yeah.
Those are just chef's kiss, like
yes.
Just there's like $5,000 spent on this movie. Well, it's probably more than that, but it does, and it just full of bad jokes, bad lines. Those are kind of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
That's some good stuff. Anyway, so after Mort lets the mouse out, John shows up behind him and asks why he didn't get the magazine when he was at his wife's house. And John wants Mort to fix the ending because he says he wrecked it.
Yeah.
And then he tells Mort, had the perfect ending and you wrecked it. And then he tells Mort that his wife is purty.
Yeah.
And Mort grabs the shovel and he swings it at John, but John catches it and pins him to a tree with the shovel like handle at his neck. And then that night, Mort lays in bed and he's like tossing and turning. And the next morning he eats Doritos for breakfast.
Of course.
Awesome.
And he plugs the phone back in and it immediately rings.
Oh, he's always unplugging his phone. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he keeps unplugging
yeah,
his phone
yeah.
so he can sleep.
Yeah.
So he plugs it back in and it's immediately ringing. And it's Amy telling him that someone burned down their house. So he goes to see it and it's completely gutted.
Yeah, it's like
and
nothing left.
Yeah, it's literally like
Charred
like
to the
embers
ground.
and like black charred.
It is gone.
Maybe one wall.
Gone.
And he has a memory of teasing her like as she's leaving from that house to go to work. Again, showing that at one time they did have a good relationship.
Yeah.
And the fire chief there, who's the actor's name, by the way, I love this. The actor's name is Vlasta Vrana, which I just think is such a cool name. So I just had to say that. I wanted to say it out loud.
Shout out.
Shout out to Vlasta Vrana.
Yeah.
You have an awesome name. We love you. So the fire chief says it was definitely arson, and the detective asks, have you got
I
any
like
enemies?
that part. Because, definitely the victims of arson. Like, I wanted somebody to be like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, like, really?
Really?
You think?
Get out.
He's just got it, like, nonchalant.
Good
Like,
job.
yep, here it is. Some
Good job.
gasoline and a towel. Like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we figured, bud.
Thank you.
Do you have any
Yeah.
clues as to who?
Yeah, and so the detective asks if they've got any enemies, and Mort tells the detective that he does have one.
Right.
And then they go to meet with the fire investigator, who gives them a list of possessions to go over. And of course, Amy has brought Ted, and Mort is very upset about it and doesn't want him looking at the papers and gets really surly.
Right.
Why don't you go take a walk? Like they say, take a walk around the block a few hundred times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he says, I'll take a walk around the block. And he says, you know what? Why don't you go crazy? Take two.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of trivia from this scene, too. So when they're sitting there, he takes a drink from his glass, and you can see there's condensation on it. But then when they show it the next time, there's no condensation, and then the next time there is, and then the next time there isn't.
Yeah. There you go.
Just,
All right.
Kinda
You
took a few tries,
you got the
apparently.
goofs in there. I like it.
Yeah.
So here's a good. I don't know. I have to throw this out there. I've always thought of this one. I think it's in Casino. There's a great scene where someone's looking through a car window at one of the bosses. The boss is sitting in his car, and he's in the car, and it's a cut back and forth quick scene. And the first time he's in the car, he has a pack of cigarettes sitting on his lap. They cut back to, I think it's Joe Pesci or somebody, and it's literally like 2 seconds. Not enough time to do anything in the car. And the shot goes back to the guy instantly. The pack of cigarettes is gone, back, and then it's back again. Like there's no time you could possibly have gotten your hand in there to move it and bring it back.
Yep.
Like it's those little continuity things that you're supposed to have somebody on set for, but it's fun to see when they don't go right.
I love looking for those goofy things. I forget what show it was. My wife and I were watching together. Oh, it was Bates Motel.
Oh, good show.
Oh, that's a good show too.
Amazing
Great
show.
Yeah, I miss
but she's not super into scary and horror stuff, but I wanted to watch Bates Motel again, and I was like, babe, I think you dig it. Like, it's not scary.
It's not. No,
more suspense.
It's
and
more dark and
it's funny. Honestly, it's funny too.
Yeah, it's a great show. I forget.
Crazy.
I wanted her name. The
Norma?
actress who plays Norma. She's fantastic.
Oh, Vera
in that
Farmiga.
show. She's
Farmiga,
fantastic in that show. But anyway, there was a scene where the sheriff in that show, he
Romero, was that Sheriff Romero?
Yes, he's talking and you see his badge. And then
it's gone.
They go away, and then they come back, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And then I looked at my wife. She's like, "I know you always point the shit out."
Or sometimes
I saw it.
Sometimes I've heard these stories that you never see the footage. They might shoot something where they're wearing a piece of wardrobe they're not supposed to, and they'll shoot an hour or so of footage and be like, "Oh crap, you're not even supposed to be wearing that," and they have to go back and reshoot all that stuff again. That happens sometimes too. Oh, that's a nightmare. Yeah.
So during this meeting with the fire investigator, it also becomes very clear that Mort hasn't signed the divorce papers, and that Amy's been waiting for it's been 6 months since they initiated the divorce.
Unfortunately, I think.
And I think my husband and I were talking about this, which is awkward because it's my husband and I were talking about this.
So let's talk divorce papers.
Yeah, so divorce. But we were talking about it. We were like, well, can't you get the divorce even if the other person doesn't sign?
Yes.
And I think you can, but I think you have to wait for a long time.
I know people that have done this, yes.
Yeah, I think it depends on the state, but I think in a lot of states you have to wait for at least a year.
Yes.
And so that's why it's like a big deal that he's not signing the paper. She just wants it over with. Like,
yeah, and it's interesting too because I think in real life, like to speak about making the character more human, it is a very normal thing. It happens a lot, but it happens for different reasons. And I wonder because I don't think they ever really say what is Mort's reason for not wanting to do it. Is it more of he's not ready to let go of it? Is it more this is the last thing that I have on you, and I'm not going to let you have it?
That's exactly right.
She does at one point say, we've already divvied up all the possessions, and that's not a problem. So it definitely has to be some sort of emotional thing, like you're talking about. I think.
Yeah, just not ready to sever the connection.
And that's when you have kids involved. It's even worse. Remember in Twister, the whole movie they're trying to sign the divorce papers, but they never get a chance to. Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Another great bad movie. I love that.
I love Twister. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again on this program. Do yourself a favor. Find a incredible surround sound system and watch Twister with surround sound. It is the greatest surround sound movie you will ever watch. I swear to God.
I will put that on my list for my buddy. He's built like a home theater downstairs.
The tornado on the list
that's what we gotta watch.
It will change your life. I'm telling you.
He'll thank you. I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys know what he thinks.
You know, we have the bar that's supposed to like mimic surround sound.
Yeah,
I wonder
not so
if
much.
It would still work.
No, you need a 5.1 or a 7.1 with a serious downfiring subwoofer.
Well, I think ours is 5.1.
And that joint will. Oh my god.
And we do have a subwoofer that sits in the back.
Hey, try it out. Give it a shot. I'm telling you, you got to have like that DTS encoded in the disc. Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't go like a Netflix thing. Put in the disc, man, and like use the encoded.
Yeah, Netflix probably won't have it.
Use the encoded disc that has that 5 or 7.1 in it. And yes, it is awesome.
All right, I'll make the note.
Don't sleep on DVDs. I'm telling you, still they are outstanding.
Oh, we still buy Blu-rays of our favorite movies.
Halloween on Blu-ray. Come on now, in surround sound. Anyway, continue, please.
Continue.
Please continue.
Sorry if you picked up my scribbling. I was literally writing down Twister. Make sure it's on DVD.
Yeah. You got to write that down or you'll forget. So as they leave, Amy asks if he stole John Shooter's story, and he assures her no, it was only that one time. So this is that callback to what he was talking about with Ken. And then he asks her if she said anything to Ted, and she's like, no, of course not. And then Ted shows up, and Mort digs at him for liking my things, which is a shitty man thing to say. But but Ted takes him outside to talk man to man because he's now getting really upset.
And you know what? I can't argue with him here because you know what? This is something that happens a lot of times. But honestly, dude, look, you're an adult. Y'all's marriage is over. You need to like seriously leave me alone because I'm dating this woman and I don't care. You guys are not married anymore as far as I'm concerned. Leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, he even says to him, he's like, "Look, man, we've talked about this.
Right.
Like,
let it go.
You guys
dude.
were already over when we started.
Let it go.
Like, you may not have separated yet, but you were over. Like, you've been over for months.
Yes.
So he's trying to like chill him out, and then Mort asks Ted where he's from, and he says he's from Tennessee. Little place called Shooter's Bay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, bit of screen kind of zooms in, moment of recognition on Mort's face.
Shooter's Bay. And so then when he gets back to the cabin, Ken isn't there, and Mort goes inside just as the phone is ringing. And so it's Ken, and they talk about the magazine, and it's gone now that the house is burned down, but Ken says he got a copy from his agent for him.
FedEx it
and then
or whatever.
Yeah, and then Ken also talked to Tom Greenleaf, who at first said he saw John Shooter with Mort, but then changed his story like he was scared.
Right.
And Ken like hypothesizes that maybe John Shooter might have been hired by someone to kill Mort, but got out of control.
Right.
And then they need physical evidence that John was there now. So Mort says, well, I have bruises. So they're going to meet for breakfast in the morning and then go see Tom Greenleaf. And I love this. Mort lays in bed later on and says to himself, it is a good ending. Which he's, it's obviously talking about the manuscript. It's like, yeah, it is a good ending.
It's better. I like it.
And then the next morning he wakes up on the couch and he's late for breakfast with Ken. So he goes to leave, but his keys are gone. And outside, John Shooter's hat is sitting on the front porch. And Mort's car is running with the door open with John Shooter's brand of cigarette, because he smokes a different brand.
Different brand, yeah.
In the ashtray. Which actually, there's a moment. No, I think it's about to come up.
Yep, you're right. I think we're on the same page.
Okay. So Mort shows up at the diner, but Ken isn't there, and neither is Tom. And the waitress says no one of Ken's description was there. And then
he kind of walks through the aisles like, hey, like, where are you?
Yeah, he's like looking for him, and she's like, nobody was here. And then isn't that when they try to give him the other brand of cigarettes?
Yes, so he's sitting there. First, he kind of sits his hat on the bar, and the guy looks at him weird, and then he puts it on the seat next to him instead of next to him, on the bar. And then they ask him, and I thought it was interesting, too, just other than the guy who kind of gives him a weird look for setting his hat on the bar, there's a noticeable difference in how people interact with him in the town than there is later in the movie. That's
true.
And
even as he's walking through the aisles and being loud.
But I think he offers him, I think it's Pall Malls, which are
Pall Malls.
John Shooter's brand of cigarettes, and he's like, no, I don't smoke.
Yeah, and the guy's like, okay, like,
right.
Pretty sure you do. But
yeah, guy's like, all right. And we, at this point, we just think, oh, well, it's just not his brand. But he always says he doesn't smoke, even though he does smoke, but he smokes a different brand. So
yeah, there was somebody else who was it. Shooter, when he says, I think that he's standing outside and he walks up and he's
Shooter
like, I
offers him a cigarette. Yeah. Later on, Shooter's like, I thought you didn't smoke, and he's like, yeah.
Like, shut up. What do you want?
A cigarette? Yeah. So they say no one of Ken's description was there. Mort heads back to the cabin, but he stops because he sees Ted at the gas station. And he's like got this thing going now where he's like convincing himself that because Ted grew up in Shooter's Bay, that John Shooter was hired by Ted to kill him.
Right.
And by stop, you mean he goes by, puts it in reverse on this highway.
You're like right in the middle of the road. Right.
And he goes
pulls back in. Yeah.
And Ted says he was just on his way to Mort's place. Mm-hmm. And he's bringing the divorce papers to make Mort sign them. But Mort really thinks he was involved with John Shooter. And so he's like...
And Ted kind of alludes to something, like, or he doesn't understand where Mort's coming from. He kind of says something along the lines of, like, a lot of what's happening right now is my fault. And that reinforces Mort's ideas. Then I think he says something else afterwards, like, we don't want things to get any worse, or we don't, something along those lines, something like a veiled threat. And of course that just,
which could be a veiled threat, or could literally be him like, seriously, please, we don't want this to get worse. Can we all calm down? Like, it kind of could be either, right?
Right.
But in Mort's, deteriorating mind,
twisted reality.
It is no more than or no less than a threat. And I saw something too, more trivia. I don't know if you saw this one either, but in this scene, if you look behind it, you'll see there's a car window rolled up and then down and then up and then down.
Love it.
Somebody was getting hot in their car while some extra was in there, like
dying.
I'm dying here.
He said a few things that I liked in that scene too. I liked when he looked at him. And this is kind of what I meant when he felt like a little tougher, or at least he was feeling himself than I think most characters in his vein do. What he tells me, he's like, I don't respond well to intimidation. It makes me feel icky.
Right.
I don't know why, but that line stuck out to me.
I like that.
That's a good line.
And then they kind of go back and forth. And I'm sorry if I'm stealing.
No, go for it.
But eventually, Ted goes to throw a punch.
I was gonna say, when is the scene where that's right, this is great.
Goes to throw a punch and he dodges it and he hits the car and then Mark just walks away and he says, "Bummer, Ted."
Yeah.
Ted's I love that too.
That's right, that's so good.
Dude, that hurts.
Bummer, Ted.
Oh, that's so good.
Just gets back in his car and leaves.
Just
sorry,
and
if I miss any of the important stuff, my brain just went straight to the funny one-liners.
That's okay.
No, that's perfect.
That's fine.
So like you said, he gets back in his car, he heads home, and now John Shooter's hat is like covering the phone, even though he'd put it before into a bag.
Is it? I'm sorry. Are you guys picking her up this time?
That's fine.
Yep, you're good. She's
Okay.
fine. We love
dogs.
dogs.
Are okay.
Okay. Annie just wanted to be on the show too.
She just wants to be on.
She wanted to join us. So yeah, the hat's on top of the phone, and then John calls him and tells Mort to meet him down the path where they met before. And Mort goes down and he finds Tom Greenleaf's truck there. And Tom is in it.
This was the one on the call too. I like the way he said it. Anyone you call, is this what he says? Anyone you call at this point is your responsibility?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Later?
No, I think that might be here.
Yeah, anyone you call is your responsibility, and then just hangs up.
Yeah, I think that might be here. Because earlier he had told him, don't call the cops.
Right.
And Mort went to the cops.
Right.
Because that's what you
Yes.
generally do. And I remember now the sheriff says, anytime someone says don't call the cops, that's about right when you should call the cops.
The time when you call the cops, yeah.
Yeah, so he had already called the cops, and now he's telling him, don't bring anyone else into this or you're going to regret it. So he goes down, he finds Tom Greenleaf's truck there, and Tom is in it with a screwdriver through his head.
A la Dawn of the Dead, a little bit. The screwdriver.
Oh,
in the neck.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
And then Ken is in the back seat, and he's dead too.
Sure is.
Yeah. So like he kind of tries to talk to the guy in the driver's seat, like, "Hey, are you there?" And then he notices it.
Yeah, and then he's like,
goes to throw up, puts his
Right.
hand on the glass, and then looks up and realizes there's another dead body, and he's like, "Oh."
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then he sees the squirrel that's on the branch above him.
Yes.
It's just like,
I'm so glad you
I'm
brought
doing
it up.
squirrel faces for those who can't see it.
I was wondering
Very
if
good.
anybody else was just like, I don't know why we decided to fixate on the squirrel, but I'm gonna do it.
Why did we do
don't
the
know.
squirrel? Who knows?
Why not?
I feel like that was one of those moments where like they were filming, they saw the squirrel, and they were like, just get footage of that shit. Like,
Yeah,
that's
Some of
sounded
this.
funny.
It's a squirrel. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so he
like
sees the squirrel, and then he promptly passes out.
Yes.
And when he wakes up, John Shooter tells him he's been out for 3 hours.
Yeah, he was like, I was gonna pin a note on you, but you get skittish.
But you get
Right.
skittish. And he tells Mort that he's linked him to both murders and that he better bring the magazine to his cabin in 2 hours or he'll burn his life to the ground. So
That's
Mort
something you
goes
never wanna
back to
hear.
the truck. No, no. I don't want to hear
good.
anything from John Shooter, okay?
No.
Like nothing. Or frankly, Mort at this point.
No.
Nothing from either of them.
I don't
I want
think so.
nothing to do with these people.
Nothing.
So Mort goes back to the truck and he squeamishly like tries to get the screwdriver out of Tom Greenleaf's head, and then he finally does it because he tells him he used his screwdriver, so he's like got to get the screwdriver. And then he rolls the truck over a cliff and into the lake, and his watch strap gets caught on the gear shifter.
Oh, could you imagine that? That is like so something that would happen to some
Oh
knucklehead,
my
you know?
God.
In comic fashion, going to roll it
Yes.
off, hits a rock.
And he's like
Somehow
running
gets
with
caught
it.
on the
Oh my
on the shifter.
God.
And he
I can't
finally
even-
gets himself free, but his watch is still stuck on the gear shifter. So you're like, well, that's him in jail right there.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
and I thought it was
whatever
interesting. I
happens.
wanted to talk about when they get to the end, but I'll bring it up then because I was. I guess we can go ahead and do it now, baby. There's a part
sure.
later where the sheriff says, like, we'll get something to tie you to it later. And I almost wish there was a sequel or, like, if there had been an Easter egg to kind of say, like, did they find it? Like, they found it, right?
Right.
Like,
They found the watch. Did they find
Well,
the watch at the end? Like,
it's that great.
Like have the like
It makes you keep wanting
after
more out
credits,
of it.
the after credits shot of them like wenching
Yeah.
the
Like in
car-
Psycho
the
when they're
truck
pulling
out
the
of the
car out of
lake.
it.
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
Psycho, yeah.
Totally. So Amy now calls to check on Mort again. He's back home. And she asks him if he thinks things would be different if they didn't lose the baby. And she's crying. And he needs to go because he's like been, as he thinks at least, framed for murder.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to leave while she's so upset. So they talk about like the end of their marriage, and she asks him to sign the papers again. He gets
Which
really
he didn't
angry.
like.
Yeah, he gets really angry.
Because there was a bit of a window into the relationship, like you said. And I think they did a pretty good job of like outlining this situation. And again, like making it very human and very real. It's you have this woman who did something that is obviously not okay, but you know, she kind of outlines why she felt the way she did, and then you know his reaction and those things, and then just the just very human, like what would have been different. And then, you know, you hear about the losing the baby, which is, that's something that's very hard for a relationship to recover from. And I think they did a good job for spending maybe less than like 5 minutes of screen time on their relationship. I think they did a very good job of kind of telling you how convoluted it wasn't all a black and white ending to their relationship.
And you know that he drank a lot during their marriage, and that contributed to everything. But one thing I really like that, like you were saying in this, when they're talking about the end of their marriage and she's crying about losing the baby and stuff, I think part of the reason he gets so angry when she then asks him to sign the papers is that he's kind of softened towards her, because you know they loved each other at one point, and they had this relationship, this life together, and I think he sort of gets to his heart when she's like crying and upset about how their marriage ended and losing the baby. And then she says, could you please just sign the papers? And he just loses
He's like,
his mind.
You were just worried about me, huh? Like, right.
It's like, you were so
I like
worried
what he
about
said,
me.
too, when she was like, you were never here. And he's like, I worked from home.
I worked from home.
He's like, you know, you were always drinking. And like, but I thought that line was pretty funny, too.
And so he hangs up and he leaves. And then Amy goes to see Mort at the cabin. Yeah. But Mort's at the post office. And so, dude, at first, my husband and I thought the girl who works there was Busy Phillips from Freaks and Geeks, but it's totally not.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, I could see that, but it's not.
It's totally not. But we thought it was Busy Phillips at first, and then then when I looked it up, and I was like, it's
you mean
not.
Kim, right?
That scene still has like something like we talked about earlier at the diner / store, where
country store.
Yeah, like when she goes to leave, or when he goes to leave, she kind of flirts with him. And I think she even says like he's hot or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then there's another interaction later that goes much differently.
Well, that's at this point he goes to the post office, and he gets his UPS package from her, and she tells him he doesn't really look too well. Yeah. And then as he's leaving, the sheriff comes up, but Mort tells him like he'll call him later. But I think that's when she says, I think that's when she's like, he's hot.
Yeah. And I think something too, I think it has started now that I wanted to bring up. I didn't know if you guys had caught or if it means anything.
Okay.
I don't really know how to explain it in audio form. But a couple times, like when he wakes up and as he starts to get a little more deranged, I'll say, he kind of starts doing like a thing with his jaw, like,
he's just totally going crazy. I mean,
he's doing that, and I was wondering, like, is that any sort of a real? Obviously, I could have just Googled it, but I didn't. Like, is that something that?
I mean, he's just losing touch with reality. You know?
I don't know.
We find out, obviously. Well, I'm not going to say. We'll get to that in a second.
Well, maybe it's stress, and it's like making his jaw tight.
Sure. Yeah, I just noticed as the movie goes on, he kind of just starts to go like this, like like kind of touching his head and
really, like opening his mouth
his jaw
and
is
closing
almost,
it.
It's just slowly going crazy. Exactly.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting, just a little difference in showing you how he's just slipping a little further.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it's well done. That's a good point. I like that. Good catch.
So as he's leaving the post office, where I also thought it was cool, it was very like, again, like a little thing where you got a peek at somebody's like personality. She has a UPS package for him, but it's the post office. And she gives him the like, I'm not really, my boss would be pissed if he knew I was saving your UPS packages for you, like, because we're the USPS.
Right.
But yeah, so that was a kind of fun moment too. And then, so at this point, Amy is at his house. He's leaving the post office, and Ted has left to go find Amy to follow after her to Mort's house. So Mort gets to the cabin, and he's in his car, and he picks up the package and realizes that it's been opened.
Right.
And the magazine is in there, but the story has been cut out of it.
And this scene is awesome, the way that it plays itself out.
He does the thing where he talks to himself in his head, And he thinks to himself, like, okay, well, John cut the story out, but how?
Yeah.
And then the like him inside his head says, think about it.
Yeah, think about it. How?
Think about it. And here's another bit of trivia. So the second story in the table of contents in the magazine is called The Long Walk. And that is a title of a book by Richard Bachman, who is a pseudonym of
right.
Stephen King.
That's right. Very good. Very good. I have not read this, but yes.
So, yeah. Okay, so.
Yeah, did anyone else have the thought, like, well, you would have had it earlier, because I saw that one too, and now you're hearing it now. Did any of you think, like, I should read more Richard Bachman?
I tried.
Because I never did read. I know of it, but I never did.
Should probably read more Stephen King.
So
yeah,
Richard, real quick, Richard Bachman wrote Stephen King, whatever name you want to use, wrote Rage, which is like the sequel for Carrie, I think. And they also, there's another one he did under that name that I tried to read and I couldn't get through it, and I don't even remember what it was now, so whatever.
Okay, so when we last left Mort, he was noticing that the pieces, the piece that he had written in the magazine had been ripped out of it. And so he goes inside, and now he puts John Shooter's hat on, and he walks up to the mirror, and Mind Mort is here. That's what I'm going to call him, Mind Mort.
I like that,
so,
Mind Mort.
The guy who he's been talking to himself in his head, like, is now physically, like, we can see Mind Mort. And Mort's, like, talking to himself about what's going on.
Yeah,
and did you notice?
He left you the hat.
Yeah.
Maybe he wanted me to put it on. Why would he want me to put on his hat?
Why would he want me to put on his hat?
Right.
And did you
Maybe
notice
he just
that?
wants to get in your head, confuse you. Oh, I'm plenty confused.
I think at this point, the first time I'd seen this, I'm really starting to be like, okay, this is really cool, but I really still did not know where this is going. So
Yeah.
I felt the same way. Like, and that's why I love this scene so much, because it happens very quickly, and there are subtle things that you notice throughout the movie. But having watched this a few times in the last couple of days, like, I almost like appreciate it more than I used to, because I caught little things throughout the movie that, like, oh, you're starting to really see him kind of lose it a little bit. And then with the first time you watch it, this scene does seem very abrupt.
Yeah.
Like, he just like full on mind actually splits. There is Mind Mort physically manifested, having the conversation, and it's a great scene, and Johnny Depp, both of them do a really good job.
Both Johnny Depps are great in it.
Yes,
and Mind Mort, if you noticed, is like less frazzled than real Mort.
Yeah,
like he's still in the torn up bathrobe, but he just doesn't seem as like as messy.
Yeah, he's like, come on, man, get it. Like, you get it. Think about it. You know what's going on.
So then Mort realizes that he doesn't have bruises on his arm. And Mind Mort says, there is no John Shooter. You invented him.
Yeah, I like that part where he's like, well, I have his bruises, don't I?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, do you?
Yeah, and he doesn't. So Mort throws something at Mind Mort, and a crack starts in the wall and goes through the whole cabin, like goes up the wall, across the ceiling, and like down the wall behind him. And then Mort looks in the mirror, but he sees his back.
Yes, that scene is cool. Like, that shot is cool.
Yes, it's so good. And when he turns away from the mirror, the mirror him turns too, and then he's like, "What is happening to me?"
And this is where earlier when I talked about a shot that was like almost unnecessary, but it was cool how they did it. Like, it kind of comes into the mirror, but then it like becomes like that view, and it was like, okay, like, you didn't need to do that. And even with the special effects, like breaking the house, like, it was like unnecessary, but it was cool.
So
like, I like
cool.
what you guys did.
and also, so that like thing where he's looking into the mirror and seeing the reflection of the back of his head is actually a reference to René Magritte's paintings, Belgian surrealist painter, like Reproduction Interdite. He did the guy with all the bowler hats, like the apple face and the bowler hats.
Yeah.
And I saw that, but I'm very uncultured in the world of fine arts.
You know what though? So many of these shots and compositions they're all from paintings, and they're all
I just love when those things come up. Even if I don't know what they are at first, I'm like, that's just
great.
so cool.
Yeah, I wonder too, because I know, like, as you know, I started to get more into like music and the world of like editing sound and doing certain things, there are like certain things like you get a little jaded, and things that I used to think were pretty cool, I'm like, oh, that's just a simple, like, you know, everybody does this, or oh, that's just a nod to this. And I wonder if people who, you know, have studied filmmaking and stuff, if you get jaded in that way, where like things that I think are so cool, like, oh, they use this you know, this shot, or this is an homage to this artist, but they're like, people do this all the time. It's, you know, it's no.
But it's always cool. I never gets
I don't
old.
think I'm quite enough of an expert to not be like, that's cool all the time.
Yeah, it's always great.
Okay, so he's doing the thing in the mirror, and he says, what is happening to me? And then John Shooter is suddenly there, and he's walking down the stairs, and he's telling Mort that he's a construct in Mort's mind, and he did what Mort wanted him to.
Yeah, I did. You gave me my name. I did, you know, exactly what you told me to do.
I did exactly what you told me to do.
And that seems cool, too.
Oh, yeah. And we see the flashback, right, of Mort finding the hat at a flea market with Amy and joking about how he looks like a dairy farmer from Mississippi and doing the voice, the really bad Southern accent. Which makes sense, too, right? Because you're like, why is this Southern accent so crappy? Well, because it's not a real Southern accent.
Yeah, it's a little meta. Like they kind of like, the accent is bad, but it's because the person who wrote the character didn't really understand the accent.
Right, it's because Mort can't do the accent, so then John Shooter can't do the accent either. So John, again, is saying he wants Mort to fix the ending of the story. And Amy gets to the cabin now. And she finds the magazine pages on the ground outside. So he's clearly ripped them out and thrown them away right before he went, why aren't they there? And she knocks on the door, and she doesn't get an answer, so she just heads inside. The cabin is a god-awful mess. And she notices that there's Jack Daniels there, so he's been drinking again. She calls out to Mort and to Chico.
Yeah, that little part, like, I'd gotten over it.
I know, I'd moved on.
I know.
But then when she called for him, I was like, oh, Chico.
She's like, Chico.
And he was such a happy little old man, too. Like,
he was such a cute little guy. Yeah.
Move on.
Okay. Amy goes upstairs. She picks up the manuscript from his desk, and it says Shooter on the desk underneath the manuscript. It says Shooter everywhere up there. Like, it's in the walls, it's on the desk, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And the bedroom door swings open, and Mort is behind it, but he's in the hat, and he's John Shooter now.
Yeah, totally. He's completely John Shooter.
Yeah, he's completely John Shooter, but it's Johnny Depp, so he's John Shooter now.
This is kind of like this is like from The Shining. Danny isn't here, Mrs. Torrance anymore.
Yeah.
This is John Shooter.
Very
now.
similar. Very similar.
No, Mrs. Torrance, Danny isn't here.
And honestly, it has something very similar to the, not necessarily backwards, but like another kind of writing difference where, so it said Shooter all over the walls, but then when you see him standing behind the door, when the door swings open, it says shoot on one side and her on the other side.
How about that?
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
So another little bit
That's
of
good.
like.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Shoot her. Yeah, that's good. So he backs her down the stairs. And he pulls scissors from behind her back, and he tries to stab her, but she runs and she gets in her car. But before she can get the car to like start and pull out, he smashes the window with a stone, and he drags her out of the car and back into the cabin. And like, this is all pretty brutal.
Yeah. It is pretty rough. Like when you think about it, if you like remove yourself from the context, this is a movie. This is a very rough, like realistic scene.
Sure.
Yeah.
And because I think if it was a movie and you were doing it was John Turturro, like, and he was the big guy, but I think it was just two normal people, and this woman's fighting for her life, doing her best final girl impression. But then she finally gets dragged back in the house. And I wanted to say this earlier, but I didn't because I didn't want to give too many spoilers away. But we're pretty close now. There was a line. Did you already have it queued up?
No, say it.
Oh, that a Shooter had early in the movie. He said, "You look like the kind of man that's ready to knock a man's head off his shoulder with a shovel."
Oh, yeah, and here we go.
Yeah.
Right.
And here we go, guys. So he stabs her leg with the screwdriver, but she kicks him in the face. She runs outside and falls, and she hits her head in a stone. And Mort's about to kill her when he hears a car engine. And here comes Ted, and he's calling for Amy, and Mort whaps him in the face with the shovel. And he kills Ted by...
Yep. Just it doesn't
like
show
jabbing
it, but
him,
you get the
jabbing
gist.
at him with the shovel, like over and over and over. I mean, like pretty much it seems like he must be separating his head.
Yeah, and she
He's
does a
like-
good job too. I think it was a very believable scene too. Like her screams, like
Yeah.
I think it very believable. Like it didn't come off as corny or anything like that. That was
Yeah.
a pretty. I couldn't imagine watching someone I love's head get taken off with a shovel.
Especially by someone who you had loved and been so intimate with. Like,
But the thing is that's actually happens all the time. I hate to tell you guys,
Yeah.
this is
That's
not
how-
this is
Yeah.
not an uncommon thing in life. This is not uncommon.
domestic violence is
as
real.
awful as that is to say, this is not uncommon.
Well, and bringing in the fact like that he's completely disassociated at this point too. Like that is also
that
not-
part I can't
yeah.
speak for, but
Yeah, yeah.
but stuff like this is very sadly very common.
Yeah. So he's killed Ted. He turns back to Amy and he quotes the correct ending to his short story, saying, "I'm sure that in time her death will be a mystery even to me." And we cut away, but he's clearly
it is a
killing
good
her.
ending. It is a good.
It's a
ending.
very good ending. And then we cut to post office girl at the grocery store, and Mort gets in line behind her and he like shows her his new braces and he's all clean and his hair's
very
all
happy.
like done nice.
Very happy.
And he's wearing braces and he starts to ask her out, but she's like really nervous and she leaves really quickly. And back at Mort's cabin, the sheriff shows up and the place is perfectly clean, but there's like a shit ton of a metric shit ton of corn in the kitchen.
It sure is.
And Mort is upstairs writing and eating corn, and this is when Sheriff tells Mort he knows what he did and they can't get him right away, but he doesn't want him to come into town anymore.
Right. Needs you to go to the next town.
Yep.
Yeah,
Do your
you
shopping
need to
and
go
stuff.
somewhere else to do your
the locals
shopping.
are spooked when you come into town.
Yeah, and so like basically everybody knows that he has killed his wife and Ted. Everybody
Can't
knows
prove
that
it.
he's killed other
Not
people. Yeah, like everybody knows,
Small
but they
town
can't
stuff.
prove it yet. So Mort's really calm about it, and he tells the sheriff, the most important part is the ending, and this one is very good. And the sheriff is like,
Huh?
"Eh."
What?
You fucking did this, man.
Right.
and we go out the window to see
Yeah.
stalks of corn, which are obviously over where he buried her and Ted.
That's right.
And Mort crunches into an ear of corn. And
Yeah,
that's the end of
braces
the
and
movie.
all, which
Braces
really
and all.
bothered me because I don't think anyone with braces would eat corn.
No,
on the
you
cob
have
that
to
way.
got it off. You can't eat corn on the cob. You have to cut the
like
corn
old people,
off.
they can't eat corn on the cob. So
Yeah.
this makes me want to go get an ear of corn right now because it's delicious.
Yes.
Yes.
But I mean, interesting. He eats lots of Doritos and then corn on itself. He likes corn a lot. I don't know. Is that a random connection? Am I just
Corn
making,
chips.
Am I just
Yeah,
making
I got
that
it,
up?
I got it.
Doritos and corn. Yeah, okay.
there you
Maybe it was already
It's-
a corn thing because they're corn
Maybe.
chips. Yeah.
But yeah, he does like his corn. But yeah. So anyway.
I tend to think it was probably that Dorito was giving them that,
Oh, I mean,
that
I'm just-
Gumby gold, but
I'm just pulling that out of my.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I agree, though. That does make me want some corn. I mean, it's one of the few things my son will eat consistently,
Love
too.
corn is so
He's
good.
3. And,
Corn on the
that-
cob with butter and salt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That dude he'll put down 2 ears of corn.
it's so good.
so
he could
good.
hang out with Mort. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
We love
you're
everything
ending.
today.
you know
Yeah,
what? That is it's a good movie. Like I said, I now I really needed to read the little short story. It's really cool though. Like I said, I didn't know where it was gonna go, and when it did happen, it got me. I like something that gets me, where I feel like I should have known it was coming, but I didn't. But
Yeah.
it was really good. It was
And it's
And then when you
I
go
think
back
does
and you watch
come
it
quick.
again, and you can see those little like,
Yes,
and you
yes.
know that they built it with
Uh-huh.
those and did it very intentionally.
yes,
Like that's
like we
good
talked about.
filmmaking.
with the dog.
It's
like
good.
early
Yes.
on, Chico did not pay Shooter any mind. He walked right by him because Shooter wasn't there.
that's right.
Right.
So the more you watch it, it makes me wonder how many movies I need to go watch a few times in a row.
So it made me. Yeah, I remember at the end of Saw, when the first time I saw it, I sat there and I went, "Son of a bitch," and I kind of
Yeah.
felt like I needed to say that when at the end of this one too. The first time, like, damn, like, it's awesome. I'm so glad it got me, but how did I not see it coming? But yeah, no, great job. I thought it was excellent. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I think it's a great movie. And like I said,
Yeah.
I've talked to a few friends, and I think they thought it was just like too slow. And then like, yes, there is a gotcha moment at the end, but that's not everybody's cup of tea. I thought it was a great movie. Plus, I'm just like most people who were born, in around the time I was. I'm a Johnny Depp stan.
Sure.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
The only thing for me at this point is, am I now, because I went the other direction, am I going to be disappointed by now reading the short story after seeing the movie like 4 times? We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah,
what'll happen
see.
that way.
We'll see.
I kind of like doing it that way now. Like, I used to like reading the book first and then watching the movie, and now I feel like I like watching the movie because then I'm less apt to be. I get like usually when you read the book, you get more than you got in the movie.
You could get
Whereas
disappointed.
if you read,
like you said
if
earlier.
you read the book first and then you watch the movie, you're like, oh, they left
So
this out, they
that's-
left that out.
That's the question. I know I'll never know this unless you guys have some sort of time travel you can turn me on to, which would be great.
right over here in the basement. Man.
Sweet, I'm coming over. Because I saw The Shining when I was a kid. I saw the movie 1,000 times before I read the book. I always will wonder, what would I have thought if I had read that book first? So who knows?
Oh,
Right.
Oh yeah, true.
yeah. To me, the one that like I noticed the most differences, and it was probably the first one too. That's probably why it sticks out so much in my mind. But it was the Lord of the Rings. I remember reading those books, and then like they started making the movies. And yes, I was in one of the schools. I don't know if you guys remember like the AR reading stuff where you would get like points for reading books. And
Okay.
I
so
mean,
that was one of them.
I was probably
So
supposed to do a
read
lot of
those.
things in school. And I did none of them, so whatever. Yeah.
Like you'd get points, and then you could buy things with the points. So I would pick up.
I wasn't
the
big, I
biggest
wasn't
books.
big on,
And
I wasn't big on
that's-
points.
That's how I found out I loved fantasy novels. Well, I started with Lord of the Rings, and then I started watching those movies, and I was just like, now as an adult, I get it.
Yeah.
Those books are so much in them, and they're so well written. You can't fit all of that.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
You
You,
just
can't
can't.
do it.
See,
You can't do
I
it.
feel like in a way they didn't cut enough out of the movies. They were way too long for me. I was
They're
like,
pretty long.
you can
I've
drop
never read,
some of the hobbits crying. You can drop some of the like swooping over the scenery. I'm bored.
And I love
Stop,
it.
Move
I
along.
think the score and everything in it is great. Like there was one time it was when my wife and I were still dating. It was relatively early on, and I was like, I really feel like, I know this is weird. I'm the only guy you've ever dated like this. I'm the only nerd you ever really dated. I'm really feeling I want a Lord of the Rings movie marathon. I'm gonna watch them all in one day.
You better. Wow.
And she's like, I'll do it with you. I'm like, are you sure? Like, because I was
Do you
telling you
know
just
what
so
you're
like
getting
you knew
into?
like
Right.
there's gonna be like 9 hours where I'm just like disassociating and I'm just watching these movies. She's like, yeah, I'll do it. We made it like 1.5 movies through. Like, do we have to? I was like, no, it's fine. I'll do this another time. I get it.
Yeah.
Like this is
And
this
I
is
love that stuff. I just, for some reason, those movies, I'm like, they're too long for me.
I definitely get it, and I will say even as like an avid fan who's done the marathon a couple of times, that third one you're like, man, let's get to Mordor. Let's go.
It's time. Move along, people. Move along.
Never read the books. Never seen the movies.
Oh,
Don't
Really?
know anything.
Oh, wow.
I don't do any fantasy or stuff like that. Nope.
Okay.
Never
okay.
seen them. I know they're
I-
amazing, and Peter Jackson, right? He's like the man, but I've never seen him. Yeah. No.
Well, you get two different opinions. Well, the two most popular opinions here. You have me, who's they're awesome. Nothing is wrong with them, and the other is, man, they are really long. And
I know
didn't
they're
do
long.
long.
I do know they are long movies. Yeah.
somebody needs to do a supercut that puts them down into like maybe 2 movies.
Wow. Good luck with that. Maybe you guys can do that. You guys can work on that. That's your next project.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Except that then I have to watch all the crying to cut it out, and that's just a lot. Okay, so Cameron, tell us where people can find you. I know Unwanted Things podcast. Where else are you?
Okay, so Unwanted Things, the page is it has a Twitter, it has a Facebook, and you can find that podcast pretty much everywhere. I don't really have like an artist page as like me, which maybe now that I do have like multiple podcasts, I probably should.
Might be
blow it up,
time.
dude. You got to
That'll
blow it
probably
up.
Be smart. But I also do a show which maybe is not as interesting for the people that do this or that would be listening to this. My friend Katie and I, we do a show kind of when we feel like it. Basically, we just kind of
is that the name of it also? Kind of when we feel like
people. It's called Help Is on the Way. So we just answer people's questions, and we just kind of talk about what's going on in our lives and try to answer some people's questions in our lives. So that's also kind of why that show is hit or miss as far as, we're not great with the dates.
Yeah.
Because we need people's questions. So that show takes some time, but I have another show that's coming out very soon that is also, it is not on iTunes yet, and I think it's because we've used some third-party music that we do have permission to, but it's just been kind of a trudge to get it approved. But you can find us on Spotify and most other pod chasers. But anything that uses the iTunes directory, we're not there yet. We will be soon. The podcast is called Anarium.
Can you spell that for people?
I was going to. So that's ANEREUM. And to give it a quick summation, Anarium is a government agency, a secret government agency, of course. That think like Hellboy meets like supernatural kind of Men in Black. So this organization, like there are monsters in this world, and these monsters have every bit of a right to exist as you and me, and they also have the right to hunt, but they need the proper paperwork.
Permits, man. You gotta have permits even if you're a monster.
You gotta have your permits. So as agents of Anarium, the three main characters, our job is to investigate certain situations. There's a vampire attack in Omaha, but we don't have any registered vampires there, so we need to figure out why this happened. And we three agents go investigate it. And of course, as any good secret government agency, there is of course something more nefarious going on that we will discover as we go. Which, as myself, I play the show. I play. And also, I guess I should say, too, it's a tabletop role-playing game. It's a live play podcast, so this isn't just like a story we wrote. Samuel Herber, he wrote the story, and he's also the game master. And he knows everything that's going to happen, and then us three idiots, myself, Rob Hamilton, and Taylor Catron, we try to figure it out and not get too far off track. We're playing a game. It's called Monster of the Week. Think Dungeons and Dragons. The dice are gonna kind of tell us where we go. It's comedy. It's gonna be a little scary. There's an episode where we kind of deal with some spiders, or it hasn't happened yet, technically. But I will say, like, I hate spiders, man, and this damn episode gave me the creeps just doing it. But I'm very excited about that podcast. Tomorrow there's a new episode of that show and Unwanted Things dropping. So busy spooky month for this. This guy.
Nice. And we'll put links to those on the show notes so people can find them. And next up, everybody, we will be talking about the original Suspiria, which I am super excited about because it's so good. I love those Giallo films. And so please remember, guys, to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening, so that more people can find us. It's really important. Those reviews really help people. They put us up higher so that people can see that we're out there and find us. And don't forget to send us your movie suggestions and your thoughts on the movies we've watched so far at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Scary Movie Project. Peace out.
If you're out on your bike, please wear white.
The Scary Movie Project podcast is produced by Tara Garwood and Matt Lolich. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.